Welcome to the Heads Together podcast. Thanks for joining me again. It's Monday after a very, very, very sizzly hot weekend here in the UK. I was going to say unseasonally hot, but it's actually June. I expect the warm weather by now. This is good. Yeah, so it's been a gorgeous weekend here. And I even went swimming in our UK sea, which was not like the sea in Portugal where I was recently, where I was plotting with my co-host for our unapologetic retreat in October. The sea there was just so beautiful and blue. The sea here on the east of England coast, not quite so gorgeously blue, but it was just so nice. It was nice to be on the sand, and it was a beautiful, beautiful weekend here. So after the obligatory weather update, let's dive into the episode where I am talking today about how much is enough. And there's a little story I want to share with you behind this question. So yeah, before I share that, let's dive in. Welcome to the Heads Together podcast. I'm Jill Mokes, and I am obsessed with cutting through the noise when it comes to growing your business. Each week, via intimate coaching conversations and inspirational stories, I share what it really takes to get the results you want in a way that feels right to you. I am all about attracting higher ticket opportunities, building authentic relationships, and creating the abundant, full-fat version of your dream business. I mean, how many of us have beavered away creating a light version of what we really want? The thing is, I honestly believe when you're outstanding at what you do, there is no limit to what you can achieve. So, are you ready to put our heads together and make it happen? Let's go. So, how much is enough? I think this is one of those absolutely pivotal coaching questions that really gets you thinking. Before we go into it, I just want to tell you about why this particular question means a lot to me. My brother-in-law and I have wine nights quite frequently. Not that frequently, not as frequently as we used to. Our livers can't take it. But we have these nights where we just get together and we talk about work. We both love what we do. So we kind of get really caught up in talking about work to the utter boredom of our spouses and anyone else around us, to be quite honest. You know, we say absolutely a lot to each other and just basically congratulate each other on being the finest minds in business on the planet today. It's a kind of beautiful mutual appreciation society. When we first had these wine nights, you know, he was talking about what some of his goals for business and life were. And he's incredibly successful in business. And I asked him the question, so we were talking about money, and he said, and I said to him, so how much is enough? And it kind of floored him. It was a question he'd never been asked before and certainly never really pondered before. How much is enough? And I think this got me thinking, because we were just talking about this recently and remembering back to that, because a lot of subsequent conversations we had really stemmed from that question. So I've been thinking a lot about this and how it's really difficult to feel successful if you don't have a clue as to the answer to that question, how much is enough? How will you ever judge whether you're feeling success or not? And isn't that a sad thing to experience, to just constantly be on the hamster wheel without ever recognizing when, you know, you've actually reached a destination or you are in a place where you can turn around and say, yeah, this is success. This is a goal achieved. This is enough. And I think this is kind of a bit of an overlooked aspect of business growth, really, because we are brought up to think that bigger is always better, more is always more. And I know some of you listening are going to be like, Jill, this is a really odd topic for you to talk about, because I'm always very much about being limitless and expansive growth and really, full fat business. And on the face of it, you might feel like this is kind of about limiting business growth, but actually it's really not. It's about acknowledging that growth is important, but understanding when to say this is enough is equally important. We really have been taught forever that success equals growth. Bigger is better. And that kind of mindset is important to drive innovation and progress. But the problem is it can also lead you into this cycle of dissatisfaction. If we're always aiming for more without really understanding why, then the risk of never feeling truly successful is really high. And this is a massive problem for people. This is one of the major contributors to burnout, because we are pedaling so fast towards a future or a goal that we can't even really pin down. And that's exhausting. So what could enough look like for you? Think about your business. Think about your goals for your business. And remember that they can be anything you want, but you have to accept all of the, I was just going to say consequences, but that's really a wrong word, because that's a suggestion that, we're talking about flogging yourself to death to get to where you want to be. And that's just simply not true. But it is true that you do have to accept every implication of any goal that you set, right? And that's okay. That's okay. That smart goal setting is absolutely thinking through what the full implications are of where you're going, what you're trying to achieve. And I think having your own solid definition of enough, of success, and of allowing success to be what is enough for you is incredibly liberating. This concept of identifying what's enough for you can actually take so much pressure off you that you can go on to exceed every expectation that you ever had for your business. Right? It sounds counterintuitive, but again, it's like if you're aiming for some unquantifiable situation that doesn't even really represent the fulfillment of everything that you want in your life, it's just more. It's just always more. You know what it takes? I think it takes bravery to look at your life and your business and the achievements that you've made and say, yeah, this is enough for me. Because there's a connotation for that you fear that people are going to kind of accuse you of settling or playing small, right? But there's a real difference to acknowledging what's enough for you and not being brave enough to go after what you really want. Those are two very different things. You can be really, really fearless in business and really ambitious, but still understand what is enough for you and allow that to drive the action in your business, the pace. So I really want you to kind of challenge that perception or that perspective that acknowledging what is enough is settling. Because it isn't about being complacent. It's actually about really understanding your values, your needs. And actually, it's about understanding your capacity and then aligning those things with your goals. It's all about the balance, and it's all about that sustained growth. It's not about a frenetic pace. It's not about a mindless devotion to growth at all costs. It's being able to say, this is enough. This is my full fat business and life. And that's enough. Having that sovereignty to really step into what you want and not bowing to the pressure of what other people's view of success is, what their definition of success is. I actually love this concept of having that courage to stand in your space and say, this is exactly the life and business I wanted to create, and this is enough for me. And now I get to nurture this. I get to enjoy this. Just because you can do something, we all know this, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. So maybe you can push for a 20% increase in your revenue every year. But what's the cost of that? If it's absolutely right and sustainable to do that, and it's edging you closer to your enough, then absolutely. But if it means overworking your team, if it means like compromising your values, then is that really the sort of growth we should be seeking? This is where you've got to trust yourself to make the smart decisions, to do it your way, to allow your definition of success and your definition of what's enough for you and the life you want to lead. You have to allow that to prevail. I think an interesting question is always, are we growing for growth's sake? Or are you growing your business in a way that really enhances your mission, your goals, in a way that strengthens your values, is really aligned with your values, and in a way that supports our people, whether that's our team or whether that's our family and the time we get to spend with them? Are we doing those things, or are we just focused on growth for growth's sake at any cost? So I think I would really encourage you to spend a little bit of time this week just thinking about your enough. Reflect on what that is. What would it feel like? Think about your core values. Think about the reason you started your business, the reason you're still in business. And think about the impact you want to have on the world. Where are you more likely to have the most impact? Is it if you are always striving and focusing on that bottom line, that growth mode? Or is it when you are really clear about what's enough and you're really clear about what that looks and feels like and what success is, and allow yourself to embrace that and almost free yourself to be in that space, be in that place of enough, and just execute better and better on what you do, rather than focusing on the growth all the time. And I get it. We're not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not in the place where I can sit back and say, yeah, this is enough. This is enough. I'm done. And also, it isn't as simple as that. It's not like getting to a place where you're like, okay, this is complete. My business is now finished. But I do think it's about balancing that hard focus on revenue and growth continuously. You've got to scale. You've got to build your team. You've got to get bigger. It's about focusing on, well, what would enough look like? What's the goal here? And how does it align with my values, my core values, my reasons for being in business in the first place? You don't have to relentlessly chase growth to feel accomplished, right? I feel like defining your enough is probably one of the most empowering things you'll ever do. It's incredibly empowering, and it is incredibly independent of what would be enough or what success would look like for anyone else. It's just you. So that's really all I want to talk about this week. I think it's a really important one to mull over now. Also, I just wanted to remind you on the 27th of June, we are having an in conversation with Lauren, Alicia and myself. So my co-host and I for the Unapologetic Retreat that's coming up in October. And I think this is a really interesting subject to think about, because becoming unapologetic about who you are and the way you build your business and what your business looks like and what the goals are for your business, and being unapologetic about that. Knowing what's enough is as important as believing you're limitless. Think about that one. Knowing how much is enough or what is enough is as important as knowing and believing you're limitless, because that is the mindset that allows you to step all into your own authenticity, build your business the way you want to build it with your genuine goals and aspirations in mind, no one else's. That's being unapologetic. Join us on the 27th. I'll pop a link in the show notes. It's on via Zoom. And if you've heard us talking about the Unapologetic Retreat coming up in October, it's a chance to ask us questions about that, to really understand what happens on a business retreat like this. What's in it for those that are coming along? Because this is going to be an incredible transformation for the women that come on this retreat. Most of the women who are coming are really looking at their business model. They're really considering the future of their business. They're possibly considering pivots that are aligning more with their values, etc. It's going to be a really transformational week. And I'd love it if you joined us on the 27th, because it will be a chance to get under the skin of what happens. You can ask us anything about it. We're incredibly open. And you can also come and join us and ask questions about your own business, whatever you've got going on. Come and join us. 27th of June, 6:30 UK time, which I think is 1:30 Eastern time. I'll pop the link in the show notes, like I say, and I'll also pop a link for you to find out more about the retreat as well. Okay, so that's it. So thought for the day for this week. I really love this subject. I love the subject of how much is enough. I actually find it very liberating, and I'm very unapologetic about this. I believe I can do anything within my business that I want to, but I also know what enough would look and feel like for me. And that keeps me working at a sustainable pace, and it keeps me aligned with my own values. And that's what I want for you. So that's what I want you to think about this week. Okay. Listen, everyone, have a fantastic week. You will hear my dulcet tones again in a week. Thanks for following. If you do enjoy the podcast, could you do me a favor? I'm going to sound like one of those reporters. If you enjoy this podcast, could you do me a favor? Could you go to Apple iTunes and put a 5-star review and tell me how much you love me and what you like particularly about this podcast? Thanks so much. Thanks. I'd really appreciate it, actually. That is the truth. Okay, bye for now. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that getting our heads together this week has filled your mind with what's possible. If you love the show, would you do me a massive favour, please? Would you leave a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts? It would really help me put more heads together, reach more ears and expand more minds. Until next week, bye for now.